Stay tuned for another episode of the Coming Soon podcast with Spider.
Hello, everybody. Spider here, Coming Soon podcast. Once again, coming to you from San Antonio, Texas, with my guest, Erik Bloomquist. Sir, how are you doing, man?
Good, man. How's it going?
It's going great. Where about are you at right now?
I am in Connecticut.
Okay. Now, of course, I was hoping I'd get you and your brother, man. The fact that you're on here, I appreciate that. Really, truly means a lot to me. And of course, I wanted to get a little background as far as your how everything started for yourself. When it came to film.
I think Carson and I made a lot of home movies when we were kids, just at like holiday functions and sleepovers and things like that. So we kind of did our thing there. And then I have a big acting background, theater background that turned into film acting. And then it just kind of extrapolated from there that we ended up making our own shorts and then this. So, that's 15, 20 years in couple sentences, but yeah.
Well, let me ask you though, because of course, both you guys growing up at home, did you guys get along like growing up? Were you guys like best friends as kids?
Yeah. I think it's very interesting because we see more and more now that there are siblings that don't necessarily get along, which is or just aren't close, and that's somewhat foreign to us, and we realize that we're a little bit more rare than others might be.
No, but with that being said, when it came to film and acting, were you guys involved in any theater or classes like during school, like middle school, high school?
Yeah, I was. I Carson dabbled and more so in college, but I was a kid actor, so I worked semi-professionally as a kid, and I did a lot of musical theater and some, as I was growing up, some smaller film stuff and like industrial things, and then that evolved as I got older.
Now, of course, when it comes to writing, to you both, you guys actually working on films as kids, was the writing part of the transition? Were you writing first, or was it like, hey, let's make a movie, and then you started to write?
It was like all of it probably at once. It was like, since we started with these like holiday or Saturday night sleepover movies, it was like, let's think of an idea, and we probably kind of like write it as we went sometimes too, and edit it all in the same night. Yeah.
Man, now of course, the film. This is why I brought you on here. When it comes to the Founders Day, you guys released it on theaters at the beginning of the year. Was that part of the plan? Did you guys want to have it on theaters only at the beginning?
Yeah, I think that's something that's important to us too. We like being able to commune and watch things with an audience. We had a great time with festivals and traveling around with that, but there's something about, specifically with genre movies, about getting everybody in the same room. And getting permission to laugh when somebody else is laughing, or when somebody else is laughing, or laugh at them getting scared at something that you didn't get scared at. So I think it's meant to be a community thing, and it's a great way to build awareness and word of mouth too, and kind of add some weight to what this is. And I'm excited to see that there are people that have really been anticipating the streaming and the Blu-ray drop. So it's cool to be able to have the movie kind of have a longer life and have more runway to build too.
No, yeah, you see, and because when it comes to stream, you guys are going to be streaming May 7th. Now, of course, like you said, you don't want to have it out there and have it get lost, because there's tons of films coming out. A lot of them do stream right away, and a lot of them get buried because of it. So of course, like you said, having it in theaters, giving it some life before heads home. It makes sense. For me, I'd appreciate that. I didn't get to see it here in Texas, so that would have been a treat for me to actually be able to see it in theaters, man. Because I think it was made for theaters. It was made for the big screen. It was one of those that you want to kind of sit back and enjoy, surrounded by people watching it.
Yeah, I think we've had a great time seeing it with different audiences, and there's stuff that's obviously straight to streaming and wonderful, and not everything can. It's case by case, but I think with this we were hopeful, and we found a pocket that works, and it's just cool when people can dialogue about it. We saw it with audiences starting back in August of last year. when we were at Popcorn Frights in Florida and Fright Fest in London, into Toronto After Dark in October. So it was cool to see like what different audiences always reacted to, and what different audiences experience were depending on like where they were geographically or how they came in. Like some people found certain parts scarier and some people found certain parts funnier. And it's cool to compare and contrast that.
No, and I was going to say something about that because for myself, like I love horror comedies. You know, I love to laugh. I love, you know, when it comes to a murder going around and people are, you know, throwing puns and joking and laughing. Because of that, I saw a lot of the humor in it, you know, but I mean, just from it being posted, I mean, it's been described as a slasher. It's been described as being gory. It's been described. So I think it's got a lot to say with who's watching it, like you said, because for me, I consider it a horror comedy. You know, there was a lot of great, you know, moments in there where I kind of chuckled and I'm like, okay, you know what? But I mean, at the same time, you know, I kind of jumped and, you know, it was great, man. I mean, I saw it. I was able to see it on stream. You know, it was one of those that I was like, man, I wish I would have seen this in the theater, man. I mean, it's just,
Thanks.
You know, I missed out on it on that point, but great film, man.
That's thanks. I mean, that's definitely on purpose. I mean, the characters in this, some are more grounded than others, and some are like sky high and ridiculous. And I think we say that's where a lot of the conflict in comedy comes from. Is where is kind of the intersection of, you know, these absurd characters with the more like natural characters. But I mean, I read somewhere somebody said it was like, it's like Parks and Rec meets Scream, and I'm like, you know what, that's great. That's you know, with like some extra like mean spiritedness sometimes. That's kind of the vibe that we want. We always say that we like when these movies are like the Carson jumped in, yay.
There you go.
We always say that we like when we want to make movies that people wanted to watch on a Saturday night with their friends. Yeah. Something that, like, you know, makes kids feel like it when they watch it, makes kids feel like they're grown-ups, and makes grown-ups feel like they're kids again. So that's the kind of stuff.
You see, and I think, and by the way, how you doing, Carson? Thank you for jumping on here. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
But yeah, I mean, I agree, because it's one of those films, like, if I mean, I'm older. I mean, I'll be 50 this year, but it's one of those films where I could relate. Yeah, I could relate to it. My 20-year-old could relate. So it kind of had like a mashup of different genres, you know, when it came to ages, you know, because I mean, a lot of people watching this, I'm sure, you know, teenagers, you know, from being 20, 30, 40, you know, 50, like myself, you know, everybody can relate and appreciate what it brought, you know, to the big screen.
Yeah, it's been cool to see that there are different ages that are really into it. We have one, Carson, maybe you can speak to this. We have one 13-year-old fan and her dad who saw it, who loved it so much that she saw it every single night it was in theaters. And we didn't know her. Kylie is she's in California, and it just resonated with her, and we
happened to be out there that opening weekend, and she'd seen it a few times at that point, I think, and we said, hey, we're not far. So we actually got to meet her early in her journey of seeing the movie. I think it was the third or fourth time, and she ended up seeing it like 16 times, I think, which is
wow, man. Wow. Die Hard.
Yeah, very, very awesome.
And she's made like an incredible cosplay of the costume too.
On her own.
On her own. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, it's pretty wild.
Man, and this was you guys didn't have to pay for this promotion, right? I mean, she did this on her own.
No, we just stumbled on it.
That's cool.
Yeah. You
see, and let me ask you, because you bring as far as cosplay. Now, the costume, everything about this movie had a story. I mean, from the mask that was made. I mean, of course, you guys had that made. From using the gavel. I mean, I thought that was everything kind of fit in. I mean, of course, you know, the whole mayoral election that was coming up. I mean, when it comes to politics, you know, we all know it can get ugly at times. You know, I think it kind of blended in well with what was going on in a small town. You know, but whose idea? I mean, both of you guys were writing on this, but whose idea was it to add the gavel? Whose idea was it to, you know, to work on a specific mask to kind of give it an identity?
I think I came up with the gavel, and then we wrote both into it. But I think the mask was very much we cracked that together, I think.
Yeah, this initially didn't have as much of a political element to it. It was a more traditional small town murder mystery, and a couple years ago, I introduced that idea to Erik, and that kind of got the wheel spinning about just what this central villain character could be. So it just catered itself to like the mask and also the wig, this sort of like judge's kind of demeanor. It's something that kind of naturally fell into place.
Nice, man. Now, of course, even from the small town, Fairwood, is this is the name made up? I mean, is this a town like in Connecticut?
Yeah, it's made up.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, I mean, it being a small town, I mean, is that because of you? I mean, did you guys grow up in a small town? I mean, where did that come from?
Not as like small as this, probably, but like I don't know. What do you think?
Suburban USA.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, and a lot of exposure to and affinity toward small towns and ecosystems that have always sort of inspired us, and kind of using it as a microcosm of you know, bigger things. So very interesting for us, kind of being in Connecticut and having to be a regional take on, you know, slasher.
Now, the fact that you guys are from Connecticut, is this something that you guys were like, you know what, let's bring something home? I mean, was this kind of personal in that perspective? I mean, was that on purpose as well?
We've done a fair amount of our stuff here in Connecticut. I mean, we definitely have a very strong network here, and we were familiar with the town that we shot. And I think there came a point where we were just like, this makes sense here, and it was cool to be able to visit it multiple times in the lead up to shooting it and kind of pre-visualize stuff like the summer beforehand with Carson and me and the director of photography, and just figure things out, which I don't know if we could have done had it been far from home.
Yeah.
Now, and of course, because you know, you guys have been filming close to home. Do people kind of know you like that, to where like, was it easy for you guys to get permits to shoot in certain towns, certain areas?
There's always hurdles that come up, but you know, our familiarity with the area is a huge asset. And there are familiar faces that show up between all our projects that I think, you know, having done so many projects has really helped, you know, elevate and start these new bigger projects. Eric, do you want to?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, I mean, we definitely called in relationships, but there's always unexpected hurdles, as Carson alluded to, but it's helpful to have friends and a network that can like vet you and support you. And so being here is good too. And we have a track record here, and we have a cool base of people who we're very fortunate want to be involved when we have something new and help, which is, you know, it's very much a team sport. Filmmaking in general, but definitely indie filmmaking is all hands on deck.
No, for sure. I mean, from the actors to writing to you know, the guys holding the cameras. I mean, it's got to be people, like you said. I mean, it makes sense to use people that you've already worked with or around your area. That way, you guys can just kind of click, you know, work well together and get things done. Now, when it comes to filmmaking, I mean, of course, you know, you guys went to schooling. I mean, you know, as far as plays, you know, growing up making movies. For somebody that's out there and they're trying to actually pursue this, I mean, what kind of advice would you give them?
It's a long road.
Yeah.
Advice that I would give. I think that it takes, and a lot of it is very solitary. A lot of the work that you're going to do in terms of the prep and the post, you have these fleeting moments where you're all on set together, but you do carry these projects with you for years. I mean, they're with you forever, but I mean, if in terms of prepping it and putting it together and posting it and delivering it and doing all that stuff, it's very, very long. So, you know, that's not very like sunny advice, but it's my realist advice that it takes. Which
I think is, you know, more helpful in some ways too, to just kind of understand it and have like the, you know, the directness to that. Like it can be a trying thing and there's joy to it, but like there is, you know, that side of it too, where, you know, things take a lot of time and they take a lot of, you know, solitary just resilience.
No. And of course, I mean, this is something, I mean, you would say, I mean, would you say this is something like people really want to do? I mean, because of course, if they're thinking, okay, I'm going to make a film, I'm going to make money, I'm going to make, you know, I mean, those things don't happen for a lot of people. I mean, it's a struggle. I mean, of course, when it comes to funds or getting people involved, I mean, it takes time, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that you need staying power with this kind of stuff. It's But it's very. I mean, it's been very rewarding for us. But it takes an immense amount of stamina.
Yeah.
I would prepare for that if it's something that you're going to try to dive into.
Now, of course, I mean, other than being behind the camera, I mean, both you guys have been on film. Now, when it comes to acting and being in a movie, is that part of the plan, or are you just like, you know what, I just need to stand in, I'll go ahead and play that part, or do you guys put yourself in the film that you guys work on a regular?
Erik was an actor growing up, like a theater kid through and through. So those are his like roots. You know, he was doing productions as a little kid, so that's always been there and part of it. And me too, in some capacity. I've been in select different things, but Erik's kind of the performer through and through, and that has fed into the filmmaking a lot as well. So usually going into a project, we'll have an idea in mind or something that suits, you know, those sensibilities, and we roll with it.
Nice, man. Now, and the fact, like, I mean, I brought this up earlier. I was talking to Erik about it, but I mean, growing up, I mean, you guys had a great relationship, you know, when it came to getting along. Yeah, I mean, being best friends, or just, you know, being able to actually tolerate. I mean, I have 8 siblings, so I mean, my older brother, yeah. So my older brother's a year and a half, and then we were always like, not so much fighting, but we were always bumping heads growing up. You know, it wasn't until like after high school that we started hanging out, and okay, well, you know, we're kind of stuck together, right? We're family, so we kind of, you know, but the fact that you had that relationship, you think it helped as far as motivation, like having somebody there that's like, hey, you know what, you can do this, or you know, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the stamina that I alluded to, I mean, it's helpful to be able to, you know, have somebody who gets it, you know, and can you can kind of pass the baton off to sometimes, or tag team with, because it's a lot. They're big lifts, and so it's good just to be able to, you know, have that. You know, you might lose your mind if not.
Yeah, we like each other. Fortunately, a lot of siblings don't have that same kind of closeness. So, you know, we are grateful for that.
No, for sure. No, I mean, when it comes to filmmaking, what can people find you guys doing outside when you're not filming? I mean, when it comes to music, I think you had brought up music earlier, Erik. I mean, are you guys, you know, at a concert? Are you guys out there watching plays as well because of the theater?
Oh yeah, well, we go to as much stuff as we can. I mean, we travel as much as we can too, and we like to take in places when we go. So I think a lot of that is absorbing the art scene, theater, concerts, and we go to a lot of escape rooms too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're interactive experience.
Yeah,
fans, you know, different levels of that.
You see, we went to we had a work function where we actually did an escape room, and it was actually pretty cool. It's the first one I went to, but I mean, the fact that you have to actually work together and get things done make things easier. But yeah, I'm just glad we got to finish first when it came to like 5 groups. So, you know,
Nice.
Pat ourselves on the shoulder, man. But I mean, life obstacles. I mean, when it comes to filming, I mean, of course, you guys have a life outside of that. You know,
sometimes.
Yeah. So that's going to say when you guys aren't traveling or getting things done. But I mean, what are you guys looking at as far as like say 5 years from now? I mean, obviously still making films. You guys have projects that are you already jumped on. But I mean, are you thinking, okay, you know what, production companies? Are you thinking, you know, schoolings? You know, having others teaching?
I mean, I think we want to continue to have a steady output. We'd love to take a step, and we're working towards this into some larger infrastructure, studio filmmaking, and just be able to paint with a bit of a wider palette with the indie skills that we have at the table too. I think we'd both love to have at some points, if the stars aligned, a TV show, because we really like, and I've had one before, and it would be great to have another. Just it'd be a really great like home base, because you find as we move on that you spend less and less time in the same place with all of your friends and collaborators. It like takes a movie, it takes a project, and being able to have a TV show would, like, you know,
the ability to return or extend it even longer. Yeah.
You know, like once you leave school, you don't really have that as much anymore. So that would kind of be that.
Man, now, I mean, of course, you know, not only to go back to the film, because like I mentioned earlier, I mean, it's been called everything from a political thriller to a slasher film. I mean, for those that haven't seen it, because of course, you know, like myself, I didn't get to see it at the theater, but I mean, the stream is coming up. How would you guys describe it? I mean, if somebody's like, "Hey, what kind of movie is it?"
Carson, take it.
It is a satirical political slasher set in a small town during a mayoral election, and I sometimes I'll phrase it a little differently than I usually do, but every now and then I'll mention it's kind of almost as if Jaws happened in this like small town election, and the shark is our killer, and it's kind of this: will they proceed? Won't they proceed? Push and pull, and hijinks ensue.
He doesn't get killed with a flare gun at the end, though, or a harpoon.
Yeah.
Or maybe he does. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see, right? It's going to be everybody's home May 7th. So, of course, for those watching, Dark Sky Films. I mean, of course, they're going to be releasing it, correct?
And it's it's on pre-order now on Apple TV. So you can go to Apple TV and pre-order it now. And the Blu-rays pre-order now too, and I think a bunch of people have been picking it up, and that has a ton of bonus features and behind the scenes and commentaries and all that stuff on it. So we really want to make sure that was stacked.
Now, earlier I had mentioned as far as the Mask, the soundtrack is actually out there as well. I mean, the music that was written. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that?
With the score with Tim. Yeah, Carson, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we worked with Tim a few times now. Tim
did Brightburn, Tim did Pearl, Tim's done a bunch of. He did Get Out. He's done some awesome stuff.
Yeah, he's awesome, and there's this really cool, almost like mean sounding, violent nature to the soundtrack, but there's also this wistful melancholy in it, and it kind of like wavers between those, and finds this really interesting kind of steady line that we ride throughout the movie, and Tim crushed it. He really gets the mischief of this autumnal small town New England kind of thing, and that was a huge priority too. So yeah, we're really proud of the soundtrack. We were listening to it in the car the other day because we had this.
Yeah, we got the CD.
It'd be fun to listen to it outside of just the movie, just driving, and they're like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Nice, man. No, of course. I mean, when he presented the music to you guys, was it like an automatic? Like, yeah, we got to have that on there.
We were happy to develop the score together. I think that we had sent some tracks beforehand that we liked, and there were things that resonated with him, but he really wanted to push it into kind of this atonal, angry, like scraping kind of soundtrack.
Yeah, Tim offered some stuff that we were pleasantly surprised by.
And I think that's the kind of thing that we like to do across the board, is surround ourselves with people who understand the vision and buy into it, and use that as a starting point, but then come in and are like, but what if we do this too? And that's really great, because I think that's where a lot of the best moments can come from, is the meeting of those minds.
Yeah.
More than half the battle is having the right people in the room, for sure.
Now, of course, I mean, I was able to stream the movie. I did enjoy it, like I said earlier. One of the things that I pride myself when it comes to films, if I go somewhere and I'm watching the movie, I'm like, okay, that's the killer. That's like, I'm pretty good, man. And when I was watching this film, I couldn't tell. There was a lot of twists. There was a lot of like, okay. And when I found out, what was going on, I was like, man, like, you guys did good, man. I'm not gonna lie, that was actually a good the storyline. I mean, the character build up, the fact that they actually meshed. Now, I don't know if a lot of these characters actually worked together in previous films.
Some did. Some of the actors did. Yeah, we like to draw from a group of folks, and sometimes call within their network too, because I think it just is a really good, makes for a more fun dynamic and a good working dynamic. But yeah, in terms of the twist, it's hard. I think, Carson, you said that. I mean, it's like, it's very it's very, very hard now to make something that makes everybody go like, I mean, like somebody's gonna guess it, and that's okay, and that's like, it's part of the fun is figuring it out.
Or part of it in the journey, and like, I think speculation can be a lot of fun, but we wanted to throw a few curveballs in there, which I'm very happy with in the end product. But yeah, it's interesting trying to do that in 2024.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I can only imagine, because I mean, of course, so many films out there, and you're thinking, okay, how can we change this? Why can we do this a little bit differently? Now, the fact that the elections were going on and the candidates were, on each other's throats, so to speak. I mean, I think that's what threw me off, because I'm thinking, okay, you know what, it's gotta be something. It's gotta be in that circle. It's gotta be, but I mean, it wasn't. So like halfway through the movie, or not even before then, when I was watching it, that I didn't even think about that anymore. I mean, the storyline, like I said, it was captivating. It hooked me. I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to know, who was gonna, as far as, I don't want to say who was gonna die next, but as far as like the victims, and on that sense, I mean, I truly enjoyed it. I sat through it. I'm I'm one of those guys, like if I'm at the theater and I lose interest right away, like I'm just like, man, like I start twiddling my thumbs and try to figure out, like, well, when is this gonna finish, But this wasn't one of them, and I'm not just saying that because you guys are on here. I mean, I actually did get hooked and I enjoyed it, and it's one of those that, of course, it's gonna be streaming. So for those that haven't watched it yet, by all means, man, go throw it on the telly and enjoy it with the family. Let me ask you that, when it comes to family, I mean, what I think that's rated R, right? Because of the
it's rated R, though. I mean, if we're friends with some horror guys, and they're a little older than us, and they have like 13-year-olds, and they brought them to the movie and they have a good time. Like if your kid likes horror, and you're probably okay.
and like you were saying earlier, I mean, that young lady that watched the movie 16 times, right? I mean, she was 13.
Yeah, she's 13.
Yeah, I think so. So any 13-year-olds watching, watch it.
No, and of course, for the most part, I mean, a lot of kids are going to be watching it with their family. So I would say, as long as they're okay with it, they can go ahead and watch it along and understand that it is a movie. So of course, it's not real, right?
Yeah, and as long as you watch it legally and don't pirate it, then
there you go. Now, being that it's going to be streamed, I mean, of course, you guys are still going to be pushing the Blu-ray. Is there a time limit for that, or is that just going to be on demand when it comes to people being able to order it?
The Blu-ray.
Blu-ray.
I don't think they're going to close the door on it. I'm not sure if they're doing like a limited run at first, but I know they've been getting a lot of pre-orders. So if you want it like day one, I would say definitely get the order in. It's going to be June 4th. And we might run a contest or something on our page for like a little prize pack too, which might have a Blu-ray. So you can follow at Founders Day Movie and see.
Oh, yeah. You see, and like you had mentioned earlier, of course, there's going to be a lot of bonus features. On the page itself on Facebook, I mean, you guys did post a lot of, well, not a lot, but you guys did post some behind-the-scene photos. I mean, so it's the bonus track's going to feature a lot of the, the cast just out there hanging out.
We have a ton of like a big behind-the-scenes photos gallery. We have a time lapse of all the productions. So you can basically watch behind the scenes on like times 1,000 fast forward, and just it's like you see the entire shoot in 20 minutes. You can just watch it and like see everything. We have the movie with commentary with me, Carson, and the director of photography, and the original concept trailer we did 10 years ago with commentary, and a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Now let me ask you, before you guys started editing, how much of the film did you have to take off from the end result? I mean, when they came to, okay, you know what, this is going to be it.
There were some, like, nothing crazy. We didn't lose like an entire, thing we thought we'd keep, but there were some extended scenes that were truncated, and some edits that moved quicker than we maybe thought they might, but it made sense for the story. And that's interesting and kind of liberating when that happens too. Like you can kind of get the point of a certain scene in a few glances and a few lines when you maybe had more written initially.
Now, of course, I mean, this movie is going to be released on stream. I mean, like I had mentioned earlier, projects. I mean, are you guys working on something right now?
Yeah,
we're working on something.
We have a couple things that are done that we're working on getting placed, and then something that we're in the midst of writing right now that we're looking to do later this year, hopefully.
Okay, and of course, I mean, this is projects that both of you guys are going to be working on together.
Yeah.
Okay, man. And now, I mean, of course, earlier, Carson, you mentioned, Eric's the actor when it comes to the movies. I mean, if you're writing or vice versa, I mean, is this something that you can kind of like, hey, Carson, I need, I mean, not just as a director or a writer, but I mean, do you kind of like, work with each other, to put each other on the films as well?
We kind of, I think it's something we talk about as we're writing it. I mean, I'm not ever like shoehorning myself in there. If it serves the story and I can contribute in that way, then I want to do it. Because it's that's my roots, but I'm never gonna like make like a vanity role for myself. And I think that
I'm gonna be the star, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I have been like the lead in movies before, but it's not like it's about like the whole
package, right?
The whole package of it all. So I mean, if it serves that, then great. But there's a lot of different things. Like I love the way that my character gets to fit into Founders Day, because the police officer and I are kind of like the bridge between the high school ensemble and the adults ensemble. So we're kind of living in but separate from both worlds. And that made a lot of sense too. And I think is unique to movies like this, is that sometimes you just have the kids and the adults, and we're kind of like this connective tissue between everything, which I think makes the community feel stronger too. Yeah. So that's the kind of the way we think. So, some I haven't been in, some I will be in a larger capacity. Some I'll do, one scene and get killed. But it's,
Now, I wanted to go back to that whole Fairwood. I mean, when it came to the name, I mean, of course, you said you guys made that up, but where does that name come from?
I mean, I don't know if we have like a truly like underlying like, sexy reason here. But like fair sort of is like, there are a few fair towns that we know of regionally. And also the connotation of it like feels like a pretty like, safe New England American town. And would just kind of slot it in nicely. Maybe that's an Easter egg for She Came from the Woods. Who knows?
Now, let me bring this up because, the actors, there was a lot of great acting in this movie. You guys mentioned, when it comes to a lot of the actors that you guys have used in the past, you had Naomi Grace, you had, actors like Catherine Curtin. Of course, when you're writing, are you already thinking, okay, you know what, like this will be perfect, for this actor, or man?
Definitely sometimes. Yeah. A lot of these characters have existed for us for a long time. The role that Catherine Curtin played was actually conceived very differently at first. And then we were like, what if we made it a woman? And Carson was like, what if we made it Kathy? And we just kind of shuffled it, and I think it was all the better. So it's both. Sometimes you know exactly what it is, and sometimes you're open to a shift.
Yeah. And I think everyone brought something really interesting and distinct to each facet of this ensemble, which we loved. And the people in the cast, something that was really cool. Loved to watch the other people work in their scenes, even the ones that weren't involved in. So that was really cool.
Nice, man. And of course, I guess that's one of those happy accidents, or not so much accidents, but if at the end, like you said, you're like, you know what, we'll make this character male, female. Just does it change the storyline at that point? Are you thinking, okay, you know what, now we got to redo the whole like that part?
No, yes and no. A lot when we changed to Catherine Curtin's part, a lot of the lines stayed exactly the same. It was just so it served the story in that way. It pushed the plot forward in that way. But she brought like.
Yeah, I think when we knew we were going to do that, though, we leaned a little bit more into some of the fun, the humor, and stuff that was kind of there. But we said, you know what, there's space for her to kind of do this, and yeah, that was great. I got to hop off, actually, guys. But really great being on.
Thank you, Carson. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I'll talk soon.
All right.
Bye, buddy.
And Eric, I was just about to ask both you guys, but when it comes to films, what are some of your go-tos? What do you have at home that you're like, okay, you know what, I watch this movie once a month, once a week?
I don't know if I watch. I have clearly we're children of the '90s, so like the '90s slasher craze is great for us, but we wanted to like make a movie that made people feel that way, not necessarily not copied what they were doing. I'm looking at my Blu-ray shelf right now. Outside of the genre, like I like, well, actually not in the genre. I love Fright Night from 1985. The vampire. Nice. I think that's so well done. I like these hybrids of coming of age meet horror movies. I think that's a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do too, is these genre hybrid things, because I think that it can both elevate the other. Like the horror makes the coming of age more palpable, and the coming of age makes the horror scarier.
No, for sure. And earlier, I was talking about your brother was describing the film itself. Political thriller. I think for myself, I think that's what fits the bill. I mean, of course, it is a horror. There's a lot of suspense. There's a lot of there's gore. There's everything in there. So for those watching, I mean, I think they're gonna be in for a treat, man. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's just one of those films that they're gonna want to have to sit down and watch with the family, because I think everybody's got to watch it. Now, because of the end result and how this ended, are you guys thinking sequel? Are you guys going to be working off this film?
We know what we do. It was not conceived with the sequel, but the more we've been asked that, the more we have stumbled into an idea that we like a lot. So if the opportunity was there, if the desire was there, we know where we would take it.
Okay, sweet, man. Well, yeah, man. I mean, because there's still a lot of for myself, from what I saw, that I can see a lot of characters still living and moving and kind of branching out and kind of doing their own little storyline. But we'll see, man. I mean, of course.
Yeah.
But man, I do appreciate you, man. I know your brother had to step off. When it comes to those, I mean, of course. I mean, you want everybody to watch the film once it's released. What can you? Why should they watch it? Let me ask you that.
I think I said this before. I think it's hopefully the kind of movie that you would want to rent when you were a kid on Saturday night at Blockbuster, when you're going down the horror aisle and you're like, oh, that one's out. I think it's fun to watch with a group, and I think if you are ready to laugh at some absurdity and guess and try to figure things out, I think it's a pretty smooth watch. And I say that with as much objectivity as I can, but we try to make the movies that we would be excited to watch as consumers, and the kinds of movies that the people who do them with us would be excited to share with people, whether or not they were involved in them. So I think that's why. So again, it's on pre-order on Apple TV right now, and it'll be on buy rent on a bunch of the other major platforms starting May 7th, and then the Blu-ray as well.
Nice, man. Well, I do appreciate you, man. I mean, of course, yourself and your brother for jumping on this. I'm looking forward to more projects. I mean, I know as far as some of the films that you guys have worked with in the past, but whatever's coming up in the future, man, I'm going to be keeping an eye out, and I appreciate you jumping on this.
Of course. Thanks for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Don't hang up yet. Of course, everybody out there, man, May 7th, make sure and watch this Founders Day. You won't regret it. Definitely a great film. Once again, Eric, I mean, of course, your brother Carson, thank you both guys for jumping on this. Everybody out there, Spider, Coming Soon Podcast. Till next time, follow up.